All right, team. Glad everyone could make it. So today, I really want to talk about, well, leveling up our C++ game. We're going to walk through some key mindset shifts in the language that can make our code safer, faster, and honestly, a lot easier to work with. Okay, let's dive right in.
All right, first things first, just a quick disclaimer. This content was put together with some AI help, all for educational purposes, kind of like a conceptual Udemy lecture. Okay, with that housekeeping done, let's get into the real meat of it.
So let me kick things off with a question that I think we should all be asking ourselves. Is the C++ we're shipping in 2024 actually from 2024? Or does it kind of feel like it's stuck back in, say, 2004? The language has changed so much, but old habits die hard. Today is all about getting on the same page with a modern mindset.
So, the first big mindset shift I want to talk about is how we handle memory. Honestly, it's time we left the wild west of raw pointers behind and stepped into a much safer, more modern world, built on the idea of ownership.
You know, for the longest time, C++ developers had this constant, low-level anxiety about manual memory management. You forget a delete, boom, memory leak. You call it twice by accident, boom, you've got a crash. And what happens if an exception gets thrown somewhere in the middle? Yeah, that delete might never even get called. This is where the RAII idiom comes in, and it's just beautiful. It stands for Resource Acquisition is Initialization. The idea is simple. We tie a resource's life to an object on the stack. The second that object goes out of scope, poof, the resource is cleaned up automatically. It's exception safe, no more leaks, no more double deletes. It just works.
So, that sounds great, right? But how do we actually do it for stuff on the heap? Well, that's where smart pointers come in. These are our go-to tools for this. Think of std unique pointer as your default, your workhorse. It means one and only one owner. And the best part? It's literally zero cost. There's no overhead. std shared pointer is for those specific cases where you genuinely need to share ownership among multiple parts of your code. It keeps track with a reference count. And then you've got std weak pointer. It's a special one. It lets you look at a shared object without actually owning it, which is absolutely crucial for breaking those tricky circular dependencies.
Now, let's look at what happens when we go old school and stick a raw pointer inside a class. You immediately get dragged into this mess called the rule of 5. This means you, not the compiler, have to write the destructor, the copy constructor, copy assignment, move constructor, and move assignment. All of that boilerplate, all of that complexity, just to manage one little pointer. It's a breeding ground for bugs, and it totally distracts from what the class is supposed to be doing.
But the modern way? Oh, it's so much better. It's called the rule of 0, and it's just brilliant in its simplicity. All you do is swap that raw pointer for something like a std unique pointer, and just like that, you've handed off all that messy resource management. The smart pointer already knows how to handle itself correctly when it's moved or destroyed. So what happens to our 5 special functions? Well, the default ones the compiler generates for us now do exactly the right thing. We write 0 of them. Our class is now lean, safe, and focused purely on its job.
Okay, so this idea of transferring ownership with smart pointers, it's a perfect segue into our next big topic. We're talking about the shift from making expensive copies of everything to performing super cheap moves. This was a total game changer that came with C++11. And that feature, of course, is move semantics. The core idea is incredibly powerful, but actually pretty simple to grasp. Instead of making a deep, expensive copy of an object's resources, like a huge vector or a string, we just transfer ownership of those resources. It's like handing over the keys to your house instead of building an identical copy of it next door. It's that efficient.
Okay, cool theory, but how do we actually put this to work in our APIs? Well, one of the best ways is with a pattern called the sync argument. So instead of the old pass-by-const reference everywhere, for functions that need to take ownership or make a copy, what we call a sync, we just pass by value. So look at what happens. If we call it with a regular variable, an L value, sure, we pay for one copy to get it into the function, but then it's just one super cheap move to its final spot. Not bad, but check this out. If we call it with a temporary, an R value, the compiler can be mind-blowingly smart. Thanks to an optimization that's standard now called copy elision, it can often just construct the object right in its final destination. No copy, no move. It's the most efficient path possible. So we get one simple function signature that's basically optimal for both cases.
All right, buckle up because this next shift it's a huge one, especially for any code where performance is king. This is about completely rethinking how we structure our data. We're moving away from just thinking about abstract objects and getting down to the nitty-gritty of how things are actually laid out in memory. And why does this matter so much?
It all comes down to the hardware. Our CPUs today are lightning fast, just ridiculously fast. But getting data from main memory, that is slow, like painfully slow. A CPU can literally execute hundreds of instructions in the time it takes for a single piece of data to arrive from RAM. This means the real bottleneck, the thing slowing us down, isn't the calculation, it's waiting for data. Real speed comes from keeping the CPU's caches full and happy.
And that brings us to these two different ways of laying out data. On the left, you see the classic object-oriented way, an array of structures. We have a bunch of objects, and in memory, those objects can be scattered all over the place. So if you need to loop through just the positions of all these objects, the CPU is jumping around, chasing pointers, and constantly missing its cache. It's a cache trashing nightmare. Now, look at the right. This is the data-oriented approach, a structure of arrays. We completely flip it. We have one big continuous array for all the positions, another for all the velocities, and so on. Now when we need to update all the positions, we just zip through one single, tightly packed array. The CPU can prefetch everything. It's just so much happier. This is what we call cache-friendly.
And does this actually make a difference? Oh yeah, this number here, 13.25x, this comes from a benchmark where they built the exact same game, once using traditional OOP and once using data-oriented design. In a multi-threaded test, the DoD version was over 13 times faster. I mean, come on, that's not just a little optimization. That's a fundamental shift in performance. And it all comes from working with the hardware, not fighting against it. Okay, so performance is obviously a huge deal. But our code also has to be readable, it has to be maintainable. If nobody can understand it, what's the point? So this next shift is all about designing for clarity. How do we use the features of modern C++ to write code that clearly expresses our intent? Let's start with a classic debate. Should this function be a member of a class or a free non-member function? This little decision tree here is a fantastic guide, but here's the big takeaway. The default should be a non-member function. If a function can do its job just by using the public interface of a class, keep it separate. Why? It's all about encapsulation. Every member function you add gets full access to the class's private guts. Non-member functions don't. So by preferring non-members, you minimize the amount of code that can touch the internal state of your class. We should only make something a member when it absolutely has to be, like if it's virtual or it truly needs that private access. All right, let's talk about auto. It's another one of those amazing tools for clarity, but man, it can be misused if we're not careful. The goal here isn't always use auto or never use auto. It's about being smart and using it where it helps. When you've got those ridiculously long iterator types, or when you're just repeating a type name like with make unique, auto is a huge win. It cuts down the noise. But when you're dealing with numbers where the difference between int and size t can cause subtle bugs, be explicit. Or if a function's return type isn't totally obvious from its name, spell it out. Make that API contract crystal clear. Use auto to reduce clutter, not to create mystery. Okay, so let's kind of zoom out and pull all these threads together. What does this modern C++ mindset really look like when the rubber meets the road? What are the key things we can start doing, like, today?
So here's the philosophy boiled down. It all starts with embracing RAII. We let smart pointers, especially stud.unique par, handle ownership for us. No more manual new and delete. For performance, we think about efficiency from the start. We use move semantics with patterns like passing by value for sync arguments, and we think about our data's memory layout, designing for that structure of arrays approach to keep the cache happy. And for clarity, we build lean, minimal interfaces by preferring non-member functions. We use tools like auto and stud.stringView to express intent without ambiguity. And for threading, we start with a simple stud.mutex and only reach for stud.atomic when we're just protecting a single variable. These are the core tenets of writing C++ that's clean, safe, and wicked fast.
So, I'm going to leave you all with one final question, a challenge, really. This wasn't just about theory. This is about action. What is one piece of old C++ that's lurking in our codebase right now that we can fix this week? Find a raw pointer that should be a unique pointer. Find a function that's taking a string by const ref when it should be a sync. Let's each find one thing and make a plan to modernize it. That's how we move forward. That's how we make our code better, one step at a time. Thanks, everybody.